Hi, everyone. A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to anyone who's joined from wherever you are. I know this is a difficult time, and I really appreciate you all joining in the session today. It is also for a new timing for us. So those Indian listeners who've always joined our sessions, it's a new timing. It's a session primarily for the APAC region, but of course we have opened it up for our Indian audience as always. We'll be discussing the digital and non-digital strategies in education and finding the right balance. And of course, as we see things moving forward, digital strategies are extremely important at this time because that's the way all businesses are moving forward rather. So let's get right to the point. Let's try to understand what are these digital and non-digital strategies. Some of the other things that we'll cover are understanding the various regions: South Asia, Southeast Asia, Sub-Sahara, Middle East, and of course the balancing factors for colleges and universities, aspects regarding technology, expertise, budgets, accessibility, content, and so on. So welcome to the LeadSquared webinar. LeadSquared, as you know, is an enrollment platform for education businesses, and I'm your host, Shivani Roy. I am a member of the LeadSquared marketing team, and I also host the webinars. So to take us through this session today, we have Umar Razzaq. He is the marketing and recruitment professional at University of Southampton, Malaysia Campus. So he leads the recruitment team. Umar, please do share a few lines about yourself. How are you doing? What are you currently doing at the University of Southampton? And just anything at all that will excite our audience today.
All right, Shivani, thank you so much for the opportunity. First of all, I mean, wonderful webinar. Obviously, it's one of the crucial, factor when it comes to decision making for a lot of marketing and education managers out there. That how do they create the right balance? I mean, if you look at the variety of the markets that is around us, looking at Malaysia, for example, against China, against European markets, against Central Asian, against Middle Eastern or Sub-Saharan markets, South Asian markets, right? There's such diversity. There's so much. There's so many factors which vary among these markets that a lot of marketing managers in education industry they find it at times hard, to create that right balance. Then, add in the overwhelming digital wave that's sweeping everyone. So again, the decision making sort of becomes a little bit of a task. So again, I would say a much needed webinar. Thank you for hosting it to LeadSquared as well. About myself, I currently am a recruitment head at University of Southampton, Malaysia Campus. It's been a while. I mean, just recently sort of joined, but I've been in the industry for almost 12 years now. I've headed the international and overall marketing teams and recruitment teams of UCSI University for 6 years, top 500 in the world. And then one of the last experiences was with Manipal International University. It's a part of a Manipal education group, but I was heading their marketing and recruitment team based for the campus based in Malaysia. So, I mean, the experience and the observations are coming from diverse cultures and environments where I've worked, and probably that has given me some sort of forte or some sort of experience to be able to comment about the balance factor. If if you look at it from Southampton's point of view, for example, which is top 100 in the world, so obviously that digital versus non-digital balance, it's sorts of is different from their point of view. But if you put yourself in probably shoes of Manipal International University, which is relatively a younger brand in Malaysia, especially, been in the growth phase since quite some time, against UCSI University, which has been there for almost 30 years. But in terms of ranking and exposure, overall world reputation, they've only picked up in the past few years. So again, that sort of experience with the three very different brands has probably given me some sort of understanding, perspective on how to create that balance and why creating that balance, is important for each organization and the marketing manager. So that is brief introduction about myself. Moving on, do you have anything to add, Shibani, to it, or should I proceed?
Just a quick reminder to everyone who's joined. Feel free to start asking your questions. So just keep them in the question tab. You know where to ask your question. It's called the question tab. Just put your questions there, and once Umar finishes presenting, we will take them up. So that Umar will be like a Q&A of sorts where I'll be reading out the question, so for
Sure.
everyone to hear, and we address them. So yeah, that's about it. Just ask your questions, keep them ready, and we will address them once Umar finishes presenting. Back to you, Umar.
All right. So, I mean, I understand that as marketing managers, education managers, we already have a certain understanding. Where do we stand? I mean, what's our understanding? So, I thought I'd just sort of share my point of view or my definition of marketing, and then so it's easy to relate that what am from where am I coming and how am I relating my further discussion to this definition of marketing. So when we say marketing, my understanding and my practice has been that it's a drive, it's an action, right, to create awareness first of all about your brand in the initial phases, then acceptance for that brand, and then eventually a demand for that brand. The people should be rushing for your brand. And how do we do that is by identifying the right target markets, the segments, the message, and the media. And media is which is probably is one of the most important factor and the crux of this presentation today. So this is my understanding of marketing. How it should start from awareness and up to the demand. Right now, taking this into understanding again, a very quick glance, so that when we are referring to the terminologies and the areas, right, we are sort of slightly more clear. Traditional marketing, we understand that it's anything that's been happening all this while, starting from the first advertisement, I don't know, from stone ages, and after that all, right, however things were produced, how things were promoted, projected, to be superior of the others, that all fell under traditional marketing. So we have got billboards, flyers, radios, normal TV channels, printouts, normal education fairs, all this traditional marketing. Against digital marketing, as we learn it till now, every day we are learning more about the digital marketing, we're experiencing it more. In that sense, it's activities in the digital world. Whatever is happening on any sort of electrical appliance around us, in a digital world, we call it digital marketing. Starting from your mobile phones to laptops to screens to your I mean tablets, virtual environments, right? All those fall under now digital marketing. Now, very basic, and I believe these are pretty standards, pros and cons, in the debaters' minds. And those would be for those pro traditional marketing. They say it's time tested, it's been there all this while, and it has produced results valid to certain point of in the history. Yes, it's been trusted all this while. It is familiar environment. A lot of people are very clear how to advertise in traditional media, how to see the results, how to interpret the results, and how to get their things done and tangible, because you can immediately see performance wise, results wise. Cons on the other side for traditional marketing have been non-customizable. When we're printing one ad in the digital sorry, in the newspaper, or running it on TV, it's for everyone to view. You're not able to pinpoint to the gender or the age or the race or the environment, buying power, capacity, interest, hobbies, likes, dislikes. You're not able to customize. Obviously, it's running out of steam in a lot of people's mind. With the sort of options available, it's probably almost but to the end of its due course. Lack of direct input in real time. A media campaigns run on digital traditional environments, their input or their feedback is mostly not in real time, so the time to react and the time to correct a campaign and trying to interpret a campaign's effectiveness is sort of delayed. And justice delayed is justice denied. It applies the same thing here as well. They probably it's too late by the time the results are out or the interpretation is complete from a traditional marketing campaign. Reducing audience, obviously we understand why and how. Losing authenticity. I mean, a lot of channels, for example, a lot of media campaigns, because of the lack of social input, because of the lack of social transparency, they are at times considered to be biased. Either it's a TV channel or a newspaper or another outlet, there's always a risk of their preferred approach or their image, and that's what leads to the compromised image of certain traditional media outlets. And error prone once is done, meaning a simple ad costing you few hundred thousand, close to a million. If there's a spelling error, if there's a message error, if it's any insensitive in any way, it's almost impossible to retract it and reduce the impact, right? Compared to digital marketing, then obviously it's cost efficient. This is a point which is sort of controversial. That's why I put it actually in the expensive to some in the cons as well. But overall, when you look at the outputs, the ROIs, people are pretty happy with the cost efficiency of the digital marketing. Pinpoint targeting, like I said, it's very focused. If you want to send your ad to a mother of 32 years old, who has this much of buying power and this much interest, you can really show her the ad, and the person sitting next to her will not probably see that ad. So that's how it's pinpointing the target market. Wider reach, covered across global markets, global fronts, through the same campaign. Two-way communication, in a sense that it is always, and this is a huge con for traditional marketing, that is immediate input, real-time input for the campaigns. People, social media channels, users, they feel comfortable sharing their opinion, right, without losing their voice or the message. And that probably develops a certain authenticity and trust in certain brand, which is a double-edged sword. It can always fire back as well, but that's how it's perceived. Business friendly, it's highly customizable, cost efficiency and all this, appeal, global reach, that all makes it business friendly. And then data driven, smart, intelligent outputs, very quickly available for decision making by decision makers. And then potential virality in terms of, again, reach and access. So cons, like I said, uncertainty in many environments in terms of technological development, how it works, how is the mechanism working, how is it going to be done, so those are pros in certain environments. Unfamiliarity from that same point of view, requiring expertise, technical expertise. A lot of businesses who are able to make decisions, immediately about how to promote their brand, how to execute a certain event or a drive, they are now finding themselves that they're not able to execute that thing so quickly because of the unfamiliarity of how this whole digital thing works. So these are what it proves to be a con for some of them. Requiring expertise, as mentioned. Out of control image, that because of probably social transparency, sometimes it has a rebellious image, where some brands, are cautious to be all out on this. Then that's why certain brands, you don't see them going all out on digital, right? But other brands, they are able to. And as I mentioned earlier, expensive to some, mostly cost efficient to others. Okay. So understanding all this, that how traditional and digital market campaigns, or how they are differentiated, that will lead us as education managers. Now, this is another quick look to show that how sort of perception for the traditional marketing has deteriorated in the past, and how the digital market against it has sort of developed. So very clear two images. And these statistics are, if you open the internet, there's so many channels, there's so many forums who are showing the similar statistics. And in a way, because we are trying to find a balance between the two, in a way it looks as if there are more downsides to traditional marketing these days, the conventional marketing, than compared to digital marketing. So those statistics, that information sort of creates a gloomy picture for the traditional and a rosy picture for in digital marketing. But again, because we are trying to find a balance, and especially from the education management, educational marketing managers point of view, so the couple of next slides would be able to highlight the factors which should be considered when we are going digital or traditional, or finding that balance, and eventually how do what options are available to maximize both, finding the best of both worlds, right? So These are statistics available internet. I'm sure you must have observed this in few seconds. I'll move to the next slide. Okay, now as an education manager, I mean, like I said, it's been over a decade in the industry now, and I have been a keen observer of facts that influence me, my decision making, my budget allocation, and my market selection, my messaging, my communication campaigns, So I was always trying to read, even with the absence of digital, the data available. I was always trying to understand that what is actually affecting me, my performance, my team's output, and what limits us, what attracts us, what should appeal us. And this is probably, I would say, a crux of my experience in all this while, which I understand that in our enthuse, in our excitement, when we approaching market, we receive proposal, we see a market that's working for some, we sort of rush towards that market. But a lot of us at times do not figure out the answers, do not figure out these, consider these factors, and that's what where the difference is created. All right. So now looking at it, for example, every market we understand is different. I mean, I'll go to a point that if you're looking at certain cities, even in a bigger market, if you're looking at, for example, Cairo against Alexandria, if you're looking at Tashkent against Samarkand, if you're looking at even in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur against Ipoh, if you're looking at Surabaya against Jakarta in Indonesia, right, you'll find that within a certain geographical country, it's there again are the markets are quite different in their approaches, the preferred programs, the buying power. We'll go through these one by one, so it's more organized. So first of all, socio-political factor. At times where I'm coming from, what I'm offering may not be what I'm offering, and which is attractive to a certain market, right, may not be attractive to my competitor who's just next door to me, right? So it at times, I mean, I will be influenced, the peer influence and all that. Yeah, okay, it's working for University A, so probably it should be working for University B as well, right? But then it usually does not happen that way. Socio-political factor. I mean, let me give you a real life example. For example, working with Manipal International University, which has sort of Indian parentage, Indian heritage, Indian ownership, right? There was a lot of support in certain markets because of the quality and authenticity that's related to the brand. But in other markets, because of the socio-political factors, because of difference in mindset, cultures, right, that thing was not perceived or accepted in the same way. So for me, approaching certain markets was very easy with Manipal, in international markets, and the appeal or the acceptance was there immediately, right? But in certain markets, there was a bit of resistance only because of the socio-political factors, right? So even for highly ranked universities, for universities with a lot of presence, that factor comes into play. So that's something that you probably would like to study. Where is that the political or socio-political factor is heading in that environment? Is it going to be sustainable in next 3 to 5 years? Is it worth the investment at this stage if it's going to affect it in an adverse way in coming years? That's something that again education managers have to understand. Now, this is the next factor, technological factor. Just yeah, I'm gonna type one for that. Can I be a later, please? How can you enter this? Did the guard help me? I requested it. Are you yeah. So I apologize for the disturbance. Yeah. So you've got the technological factor, which is mostly related to digital environments now. You see, I'm like in our again enthusiasm. If you say we are going to go digital, but we realize that some of our markets, are not equipped to handle that digital campaign, digital awareness, or they are not responding, the same way to our digital drives. That investment may not yield the same ROI. You can look at probably from I mean, let's say from Malaysia's point of view, heading towards Sudan or Egypt or Somalia, where again, because of the infrastructure, because of the facilities, the response in digital environment is not so strong. There's still a bit of a gap, in these environments, but those are still hot markets or attractive markets for Malaysian universities, right? So obviously, that factor should be considered before going out in terms of digital campaigns, digital activities. Next would be buying power, obviously, right? What is the buying power of any environment, right? And then probably again, the digital campaigns, these activities or traditional activities can be tailored to suit that environment there. Now, another factor, decision makers, users or purchasers. Is it going to be a student? Is it going to be a parent? Who's the decision maker eventually? Some markets are where the technology probably is good enough where students are able to make a decision and they can influence. For example, if you're looking at European markets, Central Asian markets, right, where the students, they sort of make their own decision, and they are, even though they are not the purchasers, but they can make a decision. And because the parents also, they have the same level of access to internet and information that's being shared, so their decision is pretty much aligned with their kids. But in other markets, right, probably because of the generation gap, the user students, they may have access to digital information, they may be all over the social and media channels, but the purchasers, parents, for example, they may not be there. And then again, your digital campaigns may be lost, in translation from students down to the parents when it comes to a decision making point, right? Career guidance available in certain markets, certain environments. Career guidance is available, starting from the schools to the management, parents. In other markets, not there. So again, when we are selecting markets as well as the campaigns, probably this is something that you like to consider and keep in mind. Options available domestically. What sort of challenges are there? What sort of competitors you'll be facing when you go to a certain market? And then how your digital or traditional campaigns would shape out against those local competitors, right? What is their strength? How are they approaching? What is their reach to your target market? And again, in the same continuation, external competitors hold on markets, that your competitors from Malaysia, for example, from Malaysian universities, from Singapore, for Singaporean universities, what is their hold on the market that you're approaching? I'll give you an example again. For example, Mauritius is one of the hot markets for some universities based in Malaysia, right? But if everybody starts going there, you'll realize that there's no attraction for your brand because of the whole. So now, as a marketer, if I start investing big in Mauritius and Seychelles because I feel the other universities are getting 20, 30, 40 students without realizing the competitors' whole, I'm not only that my marketing campaigns would not yield the substantial ROI, but obviously it will create a bit of a negative sentiment as well in the team. So again, something that has to be considered. Programs of interest, obviously. Now this is something which sorry. Okay, programs of interest. Now, this is something which is, again, very important because digital marketing campaigns now, they allow us, you see, to tailor our message. Even on hours notice, overnight, you can change your message, you can change the shape, you can change the direction of your campaigns. So this is something that is highly significant, that certain markets, they have a special interest in certain directions, certain programs, certain industry. And traditional marketing campaigns, they do not probably allow us to be so specific because of the cost involved, right? So this is where probably we can focus, or we can rely heavily on our digital tailored, specialized, personalized campaigns, messaging, right, compared to a traditional marketing. Own budget and resources, obviously. Digital marketing as well as traditional marketing, in various environments, they vary. Some environments are there with the traditional marketing is way more expensive than digital, but the other markets where still traditional marketing is slightly more affordable or cheaper in terms of reaching the right target market and conversions compared to the digital marketing. So this is something where we have to understand that what are our resources, finances, and which markets are we looking after, which markets are we targeting, and how should we tailor our budgeting and budget allocation for these specific markets and for these specific types of marketing, digital and traditional. Accessibility to the market, again, in terms of reach, in terms of geographical locations, distances. You do not want to, probably as a Malaysian, I hardly see a university targeting Mexico, for example, for students, despite knowing there's a high mobility of outbound international students from Mexico to the other markets, as far as up to Europe. But we don't reach, Malaysian universities don't reach because of other factors, which come into play in terms of presence, in terms of visits, in terms of visibility in those markets. So that's something again that's probably has to be considered, accessibility to the market and the presence there. And then finally, the traveling destination preferences of the target market that we are looking at. So we are looking at country A, we're looking at country B, and how is the preference in those countries for traveling destinations for their future studies. That's something that we would like to probably consider while we are selecting the markets. Shivani, do you have any questions so far? Is there anything that we would like to add at this stage?
No, so the question we have is specifically on channels and effective channels rather when it comes to digital marketing. And this question is from Priti Ranjan, but he wants to know in case of India, which are the most effective channels.
Okay, so is it okay if I just take 30 seconds break? I just need to shift my desk. I'm so sorry. Malaysia is in lockdown, and then I'm actually, so if you just give me 30 seconds
Of
break, I'll be
of
back
course,
online. Is it okay? Just give me 30
of
seconds break.
of
Thank you so much.
course.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
So
Not an issue
I'll
at all.
just
Yeah,
give me
yeah. You
30
can just
seconds
mute
break.
yourself. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep,
Just
yep,
mute
yep.
yourself. In
Thank
the
you.
meantime, I'll get this going. So as you all know, we're
Okay,
all
sure.
joining from various parts of the world and most of us are working out from our homes due to the issue outside. But just to throw some light on this issue, before Umar joins in, is that I think the what sort of digital marketing you want to do, and it also depends on the audience you're trying to target. So in case of education, you'll have people, I mean, you would want to either target the parents, the decision makers, especially if it's the case of schools or minors. And if it's a college or university, you'd be targeting the students directly, so that of course will come into play. From my own experience, I can tell you I've seen a lot of ads that are coming up on Instagram. So that's one of the channels that I see working well, where because a lot of kids are on Instagram, I think that's something you could definitely explore. TV is of course there. Otherwise, you have a lot of paid campaigns that can be used. So again, I'm not an expert on this, but I'm just telling you what I have seen. But definitely the whole idea will come back to who are you trying to target. Are you trying to target the parent? Are you trying to target the child? If it's the parent, the platform will be different. If it's a child, it'll be different. So yeah, those are just some of the ideas. You want, okay, Swapnil wants more strategies for study abroad businesses. Let me get back to you on that. I can't think of anything straight away, but let me get back to you on this. In the meantime, I'm really hoping Umar joins back. He's of course joining out from wherever where he's staying in Malaysia, and as you know, Malaysia it's under lockdown completely. So I'm just trying to see that he comes back. If there's anyone in the audience who has more ideas, please feel free to share. So Swapnil's question is if you have any ideas or strategies for study abroad business. Anyone in the audience who has more ideas on that? I mean, digital is the platform we're going ahead with, and if it'll be great if other people here could share their ideas, feel free to do so. In the meantime, I'm just hoping that Umar joins us soon because he's definitely the guy to talk about this.
Hello, Shivani. Okay, I'm back in action. Is everyone here?
Great. Yes, everyone's here. So, as I told you, Umar, one of the first question was which channel is most effective in India? And the other question that Swapnil had was if you could share some strategies in general about for study abroad businesses. You know, those overseas businesses. So, if you can share some ideas for them.
Okay, so is it okay? I'll break this question into two, and then probably then we'll move forward to the other parts of the presentation
Sure.
webinar. I want to know first, okay, by channel, right? So I mean, could you just clarify channels as in like inbound to India, or I mean outbound from India, or the channels? I mean digital channel for lead creation, or can we? I mean, like, could you just elaborate on the channels question, please? The first part.
Sure. Pritiranjan, if you could please elaborate on the question. What exactly are you looking for? What is your precise question? Um, we can move on to the next question while he elaborates on his. So the second question was if you could share some
Okay.
ideas or strategies for study abroad businesses.
Okay, so when you say study abroad, again, I'm taking that it's actually for, the recruitment partners, the recruitment agencies, helping with the international mobility of Indian students going abroad. Is that the environment we're looking at,
Yes, yes,
for
that's what
example,
we're
right?
looking at. Yeah.
Okay, okay. See, okay. I'll I'll have couple of, I would say, suggestions or guidelines, for the recruitment partner companies, based anywhere in the world. And this is again, based on 12 years of experience and sort of concern that, see, they limit themselves to very traditional means of operations. Yeah, if you look at most of the recruitment partners based in these or any part of the world, they are mostly focusing on campaigns to generate leads. Yes, obviously that helps, right? School events and then education fairs. And there's very rare incident that someone comes up with, totally a very different project or very different proposal. So you've got bit of school activities, you've got a bit of digital activities, you've got your education phase, and that's where you feel the revenue is coming from, is generating the revenues for you. A lot of partners, recruitment partners that I come across, I share with them that they can always look at extra multiple streams of revenue, and probably enhancement of your brand portfolio and services. Hardly you come across anyone who's looking at, for example, short-term mobility arrangements for international students. They are brands, I'm not saying no, but I believe that mobility is something that's huge. It's huge, and it has picked up so well in the past 3 to 4 years. But with the same pace, the recruitment partners have not probably, enjoyed that growth. They've not sort of, had their due share in terms of mobility, short term, semester, a month to a semester, and maybe maximum up to a year. Most of the recruitment partners, the environments, are looking at the students to go and study abroad, and that's where they believe that their returns come. In terms of reward from the universities or from the students, right? This is where they focus on, and that probably could be because the stream, the revenue from mobility, example, for example, is quite is lower than actual student moving to a university to study in Malaysia, for example. But that's a volume thing. If I'm able to send one student, to study in Malaysia, you have your certain rewards. But in mobility, you are looking at the whole class, or 20% or 30% of it, like, going under you to a specific institution. um, if I give you an example, again, during my times with UCSI University, and probably 4 years now, 4 5 years, and mobility was sort of kicking in, and Malaysia and Malaysian universities were not looking at it as a source of revenue of that scale. And we started looking at mobility, and then we expanded the portfolio to Morocco, for example. We've been even to parts of Europe as well. Taking only Morocco as an example, we were recruiting almost about 150 plus students for our mobility program, which was one semester only. So 150 students joining you, it means for a semester, in 3 semesters a year, it means you're looking at 50 full paying students across the year. And now, if you can imagine that, if these partners, right, if they're approaching these universities in Morocco, even in India, it should be a big thing, other parts of the world, and assisting with the mobility arrangements, mobility students for partner universities abroad, that has a huge scope for their growth as well as for the universities, right? Now almost every second university in Malaysia is looking at mobility partnerships, and students from you coming through mobility a semester or two. So that's something I would tell you, that, see, that's something that is recruitment part. It's not so specific related to digital direction or digital ways of doing it, but this is somewhere they can probably work on. Again, the collaboration between the universities is something that, again, they can look at. I have worked with few partners in my recent years who helped us identify, for example, country A, they helped us identify 5 universities for to offer our programs from UCSI or from University XYZ, for example. And then they can always have certain revenue coming from such collaboration and partnerships, particularly in the first 1 or 2 years of recruitment, where they can offer and they can have it in black and white their services of recruitment or marketing offered between the two collaborating partners. So that again, I think is something that the recruitment channels can look into, where they do not focus, and then they probably a huge business is available there for them to explore. Would that cover much of the answer, or I mean, inquiry, Shibani?
So Swapnil has made it very specific now. So he's saying,
Okay.
um, in terms of a strategy for study abroad businesses, so he wants to know what online channels should they use or target to promote study abroad business, but the target audience in this case is students. So how would you, promote this to a student to study abroad?
See, if you're looking at students, for example, and I'm like in these environments, I would tell you that probably I mean, the two culprits are still the leading names, Facebook and Instagram, right? They are probably one of the highest, I mean, the source for the leads and conversion. Where the interest is there, attention is there, they're spending good number of time there. So probably targeting and getting the highly potential leads is relatively easier, on these two forums. So that those would be still, I mean, as statistics tell us here and to you as well online, that those are still two of the most highly potential channels, for lead generation and lead conversions.
All right. And
Sure.
now Pritiranjan has come back with an elaborate question. So he's saying, again, he says, which channel is the most effective and reliable in India for digital marketing? And he's saying to target prospective students in the graduation or post graduation level. And the idea for him is to mostly get leads.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I should start by apologizing. Probably I may not be an expert in Indian market, but my experience, from the past in activities in India and with our recruitment partners has been in again Facebook. They've been quite confident with their activities and all this. We've gotten some good numbers through our Facebook and mostly Facebook campaigns. So as a university, from the university's point of view, I can tell you that yeah, that's one of the still, I mean, the trustworthy, like it or not, channel, for lead generation. And Google ads, AdWords, those options are there. But then as a recruitment partner and as a university, you see you have different budgets you're looking at, you've got different resources. So probably you need to I mean, realize if that's a right environment for you or not. For some recruitment partners who are, I mean, Malaysian based, I can name few. They've got a global presence. Their budget is as good as a small institution, for example. So they don't mind, like, going to other channels as well, other form of advertisements, like Google AdWords and other. But mostly, I would again say for this one, probably it'd be again Facebook. Does that
All right.
is that clear?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, any of you have any follow-up questions, please do ask. I'm moving to Ritesh's question. So he says, we need a strategy for how to promote the event so we can get quality and relevant leads from digital marketing. And when he's talking about events, he's talking about admission day or applications week or education fair, so events like that. So
Yeah.
how do they sort of, have better events so as to
Okay.
promote, so as to get better quality leads?
Okay, okay. See, so now this is probably where now you are seeing a shift, like in terms of open days now moving digital. Your campus tours are all virtual now. I mean, like career days, career shows, education fairs, they are now digital. So again, this is now coming back to the same thing that we started, that how to create that balance. Even though the actions are similar, but how those can be packaged, to be digitally optimized to make it more relevant and more interesting for the target audience. Now, for example, in terms of open days, so you had your conventional open days, right, where you had 3 to 4, 4 to 5 workshops organized for these students and parents. You could show off showcase your facilities the experience and expertise of your faculty through some sort of engagement with the parents, in small groups, bigger groups. So that was your conventional open day. Now digital, I mean the technology, right? It has actually given us a leverage that yes, we can tap into, we can conduct the same open days for a much bigger audience, but probably some of the ingredients would have to be retained. Again, talking about the balance. You see, if you're conducting open days from a university point of view, and again as a recruitment partner, as a recruitment agent, I think you can rely on your relations, your connections with some of the institutions and service providers, where you make that open day or that event beneficial to the parents in terms of workshops available to them on digitally there. And it can be a live webcast of some activity going on in those labs to actually showcase the exact thing. It could be a one-to-one sort of a workshop with an authority or a faculty member on a particular topic, mechatronics, for example, naval engineering. It could be astronautics, right? So your target audience feel rewards. And these workshops, they don't need not to be one or two. You can probably have 5 workshops conducted in certain times, for that target audience. So that's again something you're adding value in your conventional open day or your online open day, by making students connecting and getting the right information through authentic channels. You've got workshops, like I said. You've got uh, engagement. We recently had our faculty members were sitting all online for virtual open days, where the students, they had appointment, as well as they had seminars where they could attend. They could choose and they could just walk in and join the seminar. So I think again that's something that will add authenticity and uniqueness to your open days digital drives, and it will probably add value for the students to do. And then obviously that will attract a genuine market. uh, Sorry if I'm just drifting away, but see, in terms of general campaigns and lead generation and all this, again the filtering is sort of, like, compromised. But if you have your open day organized in this way, the student is spending an hour to two moving around from one seminar to another seminar, to a workshop, to a live webcam interaction with the faculty, that shows a high level of interest, that shows authenticity of it, and that gives you a lot better image, rather than just collecting a lead and then approaching them. So that's how probably where we can make open days or online events more engaging and more productive for all stakeholders.
All right, thank you. I don't see any new questions coming up. So, Umar, if you have any other points to cover, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'll move to the next slide, which is sort of, I mean, reaching how we can now create that balance, or how do we, what are the, actually, couple of questions asked, right, were actually answered in the next slide, where I'm trying to highlight to a point to the recruitment managers, either from a recruitment company or from a university, that how they can ensure growth for their brands. And then it doesn't have to be necessarily through digital or only traditional, but how the both the things, they can be combined together to give a stronger, better image, farther reach, and then get conversions, right? So now we know, this is just a quick one. That see McDonald's, their offers, IKEA's vouchers, just like Amazon's, for example, right? Online radio channels, internet banking. So these are the environments you can see big time, right? That actually are utilizing the best of the both worlds. They're not restricting themselves. They're not pushing. And then finding that balance is important, for certain, for all the industries. And that balance varies, industry to industry. Now, the a question sometimes asked, which actually requires us to have that balance, is that is because of all this digital revolution and so much noise and so much access to all the brands, to everyone else. Before this, you probably had resources to go to some, the others had resources to go to the others, and that's it was sort of clear. But now everybody can be everywhere, everybody can reach to everyone. So does it mean that probably the conventional media, conventional messaging would probably get more authenticity So that's something again that demands that creating that balance, right? Not to tip in any scale. Education industry, we understand the scale stakeholders are parents, students, counselors, and schools. Most, I mean, that's conventional environment, right? Now reaching them through digital and through traditional media will be important, through that balance. um, yes, the school, so the university and the recruitment managers, they have to have enhanced school engagement through traditional interaction. And traditional interaction does not mean traditional campaigns or media, meaning that they should be there. And while they are there, while they're engaging, either it's like I said, open day, which is conducted virtually, right? And students or parents, they are invited to be part of it, or it's something that's conducted a seminar or workshop in the schools. But the tools, you know for of engagement, they have to have best of both again. So you're looking at workshops, you're looking at seminars, you're looking at career assessment sessions with the students, and those can be either conducted online, or those can be conducted real time in the school. But that presence in the schools, with the schools environment, that has to be increased exponentially. And that's something that, again, because the digital wave, probably some of the environments are thinking that we don't need to reach out to them at that level, because yes, I can get their lead anyway. But I would say that exposure, that confidence building, the rapport building is still important. And that can either be conducted in the school physically, or that can be conducted through online events, through some other engagement. Okay. Second is collaboration through institutions and organizations. Again, um, uh, not specifically restricting ourselves to digital marketing campaigns. This is somewhere that where the recruitment managers, recruitment partners, they can create that balance, that while they're focusing on digital campaigns for digital leads and students conversions, who are actually for mobility, traveling abroad straight away. But collaboration through institution organizations can be looked at for extra sources of revenue by these same education managers, marketing managers, and recruitment companies, recruitment partners, right? Second, I mean, now this is the enhanced industrial engagement, right? This is again, I should have added that when I was recommending that how, I mean, the last question, that how probably other sources, how the other means can be achieved, for growth. So I believe that enhanced industrial engagement, again, a lot of recruitment partners, recruitment managers do not look into it as their source of revenue, or their sources of recruitment. Technical programs, postgraduate programs, right? I mean, MBAs, for example, by research programs. Those are environments where these the recruitment managers and partners can approach industries, to look for the partnerships, obviously, as well as look for the recruitment numbers, for postgraduate and other students. So that's something where industrial engagement is somewhere we have to look into for better returns. Any questions so far, Shibani?
Yes, so there's a question from Praveen. So he's talking
Okay.
about engaging B2B private school stakeholders.
Yeah.
He's talking about what are the best ways, digital ways rather, to engage with B2B private school stakeholders.
Sorry, say again. Last question. Sorry, what's the last statement? Sorry.
Yeah, so he wants to know how can we use digital platforms to engage with B2B private school stakeholders. And he's talking in terms of India, but like I would request you to sort of share your views in general with your experience in terms of B2B private school stakeholders.
All right. Okay. See, when you say when we say B2B, then probably I would not restrict myself. I would not focus so much on digital, because I mean, if there's a B2B arrangement, obviously it's sort of gives us a lot of presence, on in those schools. I'm expecting, right? But then yes, if B2B arrangements are done with these environments, then probably yes, we can engage the social platforms of those schools, by some sort of agreement, by some sort of understanding, which probably should give us more exposure, which should give us a better reputation, or among the visitors or audience on those social platforms. So if you're looking at, for example, B2B with a school which has, 10 or 20 campuses across India, or like in Malaysia, for example, I will give you a reference. We've got a Beacon House, one of the schools. They've got about 14 campuses in Malaysia now for our seniors. And when we entered a B2B2 sort of, so we had an understanding that we will be present on their digital channels, in terms of postings and comments and all this. And that helped us a lot growing the numbers there, because obviously as a preferred partners, we had the access, we had the parents on their feeds, and that resulted in a lot of direct inquiries. For digital, I'm sorry, for recruitment partners, if you are approaching a school, international schools for your B2B arrangements, then somehow you have to be, be present on their social channels. Again, if you're just putting your services as in like recruitment services, student placement services, you probably would not be taken so seriously or would not be appreciated so much. But if these partners or even universities, for example, what if they are using that channel to highlight the career selection, processes, the career decision making processes, some tips about career selections, how parents, for example, all the stakeholders, the parents, the schools, the students, career counselors, how they how they can work together for the career selection, the decision making towards career selection. If they are posting smart, beneficial, rewarding workshops, from experts, their opinions, their point of view, so that is sort of creating a credibility among the audience on those platforms, that yeah, this brand or this environment knows, it cares about us, it understands us, it is giving us all the tools to make a right decision. And that again probably I think would get you a lot of exposure and confidence among them, through those sort of B2B arrangements. So this would be probably my a take, on managing your engagement with those B2B platforms. Their platforms. Does it cover the ask question, or would you like me to add anything else?
Praveen, do let us know. Is there anything else that you have? Any follow up questions? In the meantime, I'm moving on to Helen's question. So she's saying, with the current world situation, when we don't know when we will be back into our schools, how can we forge ahead marketing our schools with such uncertainty?
Okay, so I guess this conventional answer by most will be that yes, digital and moving there. So you have to give confidence. If you're talking about in terms of promoting and projecting your school to the target audience, right? Probably again, media campaigns would take the center stage. Targeting the right audience at this stage and all this, that probably will be the solution for most. I'm working from home, and two weeks is gonna be home, so I think I will be bombarded, as a parent of two, by all these sort of messaging, right? And I will probably have more time, to look into those, while I've got some time at my hand. So if Helen's point of view is that how we can probably enhance the messaging, how we can approach better audience, I would say yes, these are times where probably a little bit of focus will get you more attention in these times generally, right? And then a stronger message. But then let's not forget, see, that everybody will be riding the same board, everybody will be doing the same. So we got to stand out from the others, and how we do that, obviously are looking at what the parents or and the stakeholders are looking at, which is in terms of academic excellence, yes, better performance among students, better understanding, the clarity of the way forward, in terms of future and career, employability. So these are the few messages that you probably would like to include in your digital campaigns or in your messaging, that this is what you are doing better than others or different than others to get their attention. But in short, in the absence of other options, digital would probably be much more aggressive in these times and coming, I would say, even few months, I would say.
Yeah, and I'll probably just add to that, Helen.
Please.
I see in India at least there are a lot of education platforms, education companies who are offering free classes, free courses to, for a limited period of time for the entire month of March. This does not include a higher education, it includes basic classes also. So a lot of education platforms are trying to do that for the community, are trying to help out people in any small way possible. So definitely online sessions is something that you could look at. Even in terms of LeadSquared, in our marketing also, we had planned out several events, but now we don't know where that's going, so we're trying to just do as much as we can online. um, I'll just give you a comment, Umar. Praveen said, "Thanks, Umar. I like the idea about being present on school digital platforms." So he will definitely give a thought to that. I don't see any further questions coming in, and we're almost out of time. So, Umar, if you have any closing thoughts, any other ideas that you'd like to share, please do. And thereafter, we will end the session.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much covered. Pretty much, I think you've summarized as well. On Helen's point, what you said is very correct, and it's not probably India, even Malaysia now. I'm like you said, we are in lockdown, so we have gone all online. I mean, in terms of if you're talking about the students that you already have and how to manage them and their parents and expectations, it's all online now in terms of classes, course content, engagement, workshops, small groups. Like so it's happening here as well. And I think yes, course content, some sort of interesting course content creation, that would probably be good if schools they still have time and resources to do that. If not, I think probably they can still rely on existing resources which are out there, and most of those are sort of free. If they can identify the right YouTube channels, for example, I would say, right, forums where such discussions are happening among parents, I think that would give a confidence to the parents that yes, the school, the brand is backing us up, is not giving us or is not taking this as a sort of break, but it is still responsible, feeling that responsibility. So I think those sort of online measures can be taken to comfort, what the audience that you already have in your channels. So other than that, I mean, I pretty much summed up, I hope. Like I said, see, I'm like, yes, I do not want to sound pessimist towards digital or traditional, but I feel that at times certain brands, certain environments, certain individuals, right, they are overwhelmed by the digital rush. And even though it's very important, it's very crucial to understand. I did not go to a very technical side of about search engine optimizations and I mean pay per clicks and all those, because that's a portfolio that usually shared by a marketing manager or the I mean, marketing manager, or communication department. But yes, I mean, it's important that every environment, in its own capacity, should understand these factors that I highlighted earlier, right? And then based on that, I'm like, the allocation or the balance has to be created. It's very market specific till now. It's very target segment specific right now. I mean, let's not generalize the digital media, or just let's not consider it to be a solution for all the issues or the problems, right? It has to be very specifically tailored and personalized for each environment. And as long as we are doing it and we are supplementing it by traditional activities of being present, awareness campaigns, engagement campaigns with the boards, environment, schools, I think we can be safe to say of our growth and I mean development.
Perfect. Thank you so much for summarizing that, Umar. I also got Helen has gone back saying she likes the idea of doing a virtual open day and free courses for just this month. Yes, that's the way to go. At least that's what I believe at the moment. Not just education. I know I'm going off track, but I even know gyms in India right now are doing online classes. So you don't have to
Wow.
physically go to the gym. Just do it from
It's
the
it's like
comfort of your home.
you watch the video and you get a six pack. Is that how it works?
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
love
they're
to.
trying to do that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I can do that on my from my couch, watching a video and getting a six pack, sign me in, Shivani, please. So yeah,
Definitely.
the digital, the open days, education fair, starting from education fairs. I mean, it started big, I would say. Probably it should have started the other way, but then it started big education fairs. So you had like 30 universities, 30, 40, 50 universities participating in those virtual education fairs. And then students could log in from any part of the world and they could move around. They could enter a booth of a university and then he could select a program and then he could select a workshop and then he could select either a video or a counselor or a faculty member. So that was, I mean, it was amazing how it all worked. It was like taking 40 people of our university to, let's say, a one student in Kenya. It was as good as that. So that was. Then it came down to open days, right? I mean, virtual tours were always there, but the virtual open days are doing really good for us, even though we just recently started. But that sort of gives a lot of engagement with the students, parents. Again, if the digital, I mean, the message are going out is clear, is heading to the right people, the traffic that you receive on those open days is highly potential, I would say. So Helen and others, probably even the recruitment agents and all this, right, recruitment partners, they can always look into it, how to customize it for their own brand, their own environment, and so highly recommended that as well.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Umar. We are going to end the session now. And thanks to everyone who's joined the session today. I really appreciate you joining in because I know you may not be at your office. You may be taking the session or listening in from any other place. So thanks again for joining in. For those of you asking for the deck, yes, the deck will be sent to you. If any of you want to get in touch with Umar post session, just email me, just respond to the webinar email and I'll get back to you straight away. You will also receive the recording for the session and the deck in case you joined in later. Yeah, a lot of comments and a lot of thank you messages for you, Umar, that's coming in. So that's always
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
always yeah, great to see, and it really encourages us to continue doing this. Anyone interested in a healthcare session tomorrow, let me know. It's on patient and customer experience in healthcare. If you have friends working in the healthcare segment, please let us know. I mean, please let them know rather that we're doing this. It's a little later than the time you're joining in right now. It's at about 3 p.m. IST. So that's another session we're having. I hope to see you all back next month again. We will mostly have another exclusive session for folks in the education industry, so I hope to see you for that. I'm going to end the session now. Everyone, please take care. Umar, thanks so much again.
Stay safe, everyone. Stay safe. Make sure everybody is in good health. We need everybody healthy and fine. Wish you best of luck. Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much. Bye bye.